Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you guys for joining me this morning. So my name is Shannon Denny. I am the owner of Vivify Educational Solutions. It's a tutoring and educational consulting company that supports students with special needs. I am also a preschool special education teacher. I have been in that particular position for just past 3 years. However, I've been teaching and tutoring over 8 years. I have been working with the preschool ages, for pretty much as long as I wanted to be in education. So I have a master's degree in special education and general education. I live in the wonderful state of Alabama, and recently I was doing in-person supports with students in the greater Birmingham area. But of course, now with this interesting curveball that life has thrown us, I'm now doing a lot of my services remotely through different online platforms. So this morning, I wanted to talk to you guys about preschool and autism, kind of from a teacher-ish position. My nephew has autism. He was diagnosed when he was in right after third grade. However, he always received early intervention for developmental delay as well as speech. He also received an ADHD diagnosis prior to the autism diagnosis. And as he was receiving those, I was literally going through my master's coursework. So it was interesting to see what was being asked of me happening at the same time, as a teacher being taught, this is what you do, happening at the same time as a family member who my sister and I are very close. He was actually living with my mom and I at that time, so it was interesting to see those parallel things work. Good morning, Pam. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Hello, Jania. I'm sorry, I'm getting to my notes. I have to make notes so I make sure I catch everything with you guys. I'm a fast talker, so I apologize in advance if I say something a little too fast. You can always reach out and contact me if you need clarification or if you want me to explain something a little bit more. So for starters, my goal is to kind of focus on the parents a little bit more today. I have come across so many parents that I feel like just need an extra word of encouragement and support when it comes to dealing with babies with autism. What I do is in my schools, I'm an itinerant teacher. So while I don't have a set classroom, I travel to the different Head Start locations. Good morning, Charles. I travel to the different Head Start locations and work with those students that have special needs. So in doing that, I have come across parents of all educational backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and there's always the underlining kind of concern or worry that they're not doing enough for their child. And a lot of times parents, you guys really want to do the absolute best that you can for your baby, which is just beautiful. And I see the strain and the stress. So this morning I decided to kind of give you some, pointers from an outsider's view, just so you guys can have something to work through, especially now that you're home with your babies almost all the time, unless you have a village that's helping you to support that child. Okay. So I'm going to jump right on in. Another position that I hold is I am a part of the, you would call it the referral team on my job. So when you get children in as young as preschoolers, we start with the early intervention, and we do that entire process with them from the early intervention transition, if they're early intervention, if it's a parent or doctor referral or school referral, we do it from the referral process all the way through evaluation and up. So I have been able to see a lot of different, aspects and a lot of different things that other parents and other teachers may not be able to really see. I guess I get to see things from a lot of different angles. So from the family angle, with my nephew having a diagnosis of ADHD, well, early intervention first, then ADHD, then autism. I have ADHD as well. And then my position at school, seeing how everything moves together, family members having concerns, it can be a lot. So hopefully this will help and support you guys. So for starters, the first thing I want everyone that is watching live or everyone who will watch this video at a later time, I want you to do this with me. It seems silly, but I promise you it will work. I want you to start breathing, okay? We're going to breathe together. In, out. In, out. In, out. One more time. In, out. Now we're going to pause and I'm going to count to 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because that's probably the only time some of you have taken a moment to breathe in these past couple of days or months. So every time I teach or do a training, I start off with breathing. I can't give you much. I don't have the millions to give you. I don't have the perfect solution. But if you're dedicated to watching this or even listening to it, I can at least give you about 10 seconds of nothing, which sometimes can be everything to a parent. So hopefully you were able to successfully do those 10 seconds of breathing with me. And that was your gift to yourself, your starting gift. Also, I like for parents to evaluate your position. So as a parent, you are also a provider. You also are security. You are a chef. You are, those are just the first ones that come to my head among the numerous other positions that you have to hold. This is even for children without autism. Any child anywhere in the world, as a parent, that's what your position is to that child. However, sometimes I think parents really want to be so much they forget they are only one person. Above anything else, that child wants your love and your connection. I know it's hard, and I know you say, well, if I don't do it, no one else will. One thing that I have seen with parents is that the burnout comes not for the burnout comes not because of your commitment to your child. It's because of the commitment to the numerous different positions that you think you need to hold. I'll share an acronym with you guys a little later on that I think sums it up perfectly. Now, this isn't a fix all live, okay? This is going to take, what's the word I want to say? This is going to take, doing this as my supervisor would say, to fidelity. You have to make sure that you implement these things all the time in order to see results. So before we get to the ABA, before we get to the early intervention, before we get to the special education, it has to start with you. You're an individual. You have your own likes and dislikes. Many of you have stopped doing things that you've wanted to do for your child, which is totally understandable. But I don't want you to forget that you are a person yourself. Moms and dads, grandmas, grandpas, uncles, aunts, before the child came into the world, you were your own person. You had your individuality. You had your sense. The child is adding to that, not taking away. Please keep that in mind. A lot of parents I've found have such a unique skill set and they have these gifts, but they feel that because the child with autism needs something else, they can't show them that. If you have a gift or a talent, connect with your child by showing them that. That's a wonderful starting place. That helps you get it out of your system, so to speak. And it also helps them to see a different side of you. Sometimes we feel like our babies need us to be on it all the time. You have to do this and this and this, which which is true. They love structure. Most of them, if not all of them, because I don't want to make stereotypical generalizations, but they need that structure. However, they love to see the other sides of us. My teachers at school, they talk about me all the time because I call everybody sugar, from the principal to the janitor to the students to the teachers to my boss. Everyone is sugar. Okay. So one day I went into the classroom and I spoke to the teacher. I said, "Hey, sugar, how you doing? Don't forget I'm in the South." And she says, one of the little babies said, "Hey, sugar." I was like, what? You wouldn't have thought he was listening. You wouldn't have thought that he picked up on it, but he did. And I absolutely loved it. So the teacher was like, "Now you're going to have him calling me sugar all day." You know what, Angela, that's a good point that you bring up. So that goes back to the whole individuality standpoint of it. You have your own unique set of circumstances that are near and dear to your heart. There are certain things that you have, and there are certain things reasons why you do what you do. If nothing else, I have learned that with parents, you can't just see them for the child, you have to see them for them. A lot of times I have interacted with parents and they've opened up to me and they've shared some things. And it's like, wow, I understand. So I have something I hope will be able to somewhat help you. I'm not a licensed counselor at all, but there's something I'm going to talk about in a little bit just to help you with the, kind of help show you a way to release in a way. Hopefully it helps, but if not, my prayers definitely go out to you and your family that you guys can work it out. The next point is that you need to step back. Okay. So sometimes you get so into the situation with your child. Sometimes you get so wrapped up into it, which we all do, that we kind of lose sight of the bigger picture. So what needs to be done is one of the first questions you should ask. So let's say the routine has changed and your baby is just not happy with it. Okay, what needs to be done in that situation? That's not a what do you want to happen? What does he want to happen? You know your child. I may know the professional terminology. I may know the textbook way of doing things, but you know your child. What do they need at their core? What do they really need to make the situation improve? You can start there. Also, work with what you do have. So this is something that even I struggle with. From time to time, we tend to focus mostly on the things that we are unable to do or the things that we are struggling with the most, instead of looking at it from a glass half full perspective. And it's totally hard to do it. I know it is not perfect, but it's one thing to help you make the resources. So I'll give you guys an example. I was painting cabinets yesterday, and my fiance comes in and was like, "Why are you doing it that way?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He literally walks over to the table, picks up a stick. I was like, "This is the stick that goes at the end of the roller so you don't have to bend down as much." I was like, "Well, where were you yesterday when I was breaking my back, making this hurt?" But it was literally right there on the table. I was so engulfed in the task that I didn't step back to analyze it. He then said, "Well, just so you know, most of these brooms that we have that are plastic, they have the screw-on handle. So if you ever need something longer, unscrew the handle off the broom." It's like, "Oh, thanks for that information." But now I know something to help me get through the task quicker and easier. It was all right there. I just needed to step back and think, okay, instead of pushing through in the pain, instead of pushing through in the emotions, instead of just like, let me just get it done so I can get it off my mind, let me step back and say, okay, this isn't working because it's causing me too much stress. What do I have, or what can I do that's different? The next thing is to also do a quick risk assessment. So, Angela, this is what I was mentioning. Sometimes our babies want to do and say things and engage in practices that, while they may not be hazardous or toxic, it could be a tad bit out of their scope and sequence, but in their minds and in their world, they're ready for it. So risk assessment, I've heard this term for years, and not too long ago, I heard it in the context of preschool. It was, okay, so let's say, and just so I don't use anybody's kids' names on accident, I'm going to use a random thing that I see. Let's say little Marshmallow wants to climb a tree. Instead of telling little Marshmallow, no, don't do that, you can't do that, I'm pretty sure they may end up doing it anyway, you do a risk assessment, okay? What is the dangers, okay? From those dangers, what are some things that can potentially harm him? What are some things that can potentially hurt him? Also, what good could come out of this? What can we do with the tree instead of climbing it if that's too risky? What can we do instead of another thing, my thoughts are kind of mushing together. Another thing is the phrase be careful is so vague that if you say it to a child, they are probably looking at you like, okay. So sometimes I've noticed if I say, be careful, please be careful, please be careful. I'm like, why are they not listening to me? I'm sorry, you guys, give me. Interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up in a little bit. But instead of saying be careful, use leading questions to get what it is that you may need from the child. So you ask them and you say, okay, if you were to climb up that wall, what's your plan to get down? That way those wheels can start turning in their heads that, I may need an exit strategy if I enter into this situation. Hey, I noticed that there was your stick is pointing upwards towards someone's face. I just don't want you to hit someone with it. Instead of be careful with that stick, let them know what you see, describe it to them. It also helps to support their language development because instead of the same terminology being used every time, it's also giving them different ways to explain situations. The next thing is what is developmentally appropriate. A lot of times, especially with my more high functioning babies with autism, parents will say, well, so-and-so is doing this. So-and-so's child is doing this. Or some parents they've automatically said, well, my child has always been smart, so why can't they do this thing or that thing? You have to make sure that what they're doing is developmentally appropriate. So by this age, what should they be doing? By this age, what should they be doing? Sometimes those standards and those norms need to be reevaluated based on technological advances and cultural changes. But for the most part, if your neighbor's 5-year-old is reading books, but your 5-year-old is just now working on identifying some sight words, that is okay. That is totally fine. If your 3-year-old is still working on color and shape identification, but your neighbor's 3-year-old knows what tetradagon or something else is, that is okay. One thing I've realized is that comparison is the thief of joy. You can't keep comparing your baby to other people's babies because there's something your child can do that they cannot. So what you have is a blessing and is a gift. It doesn't seem that way always because it is so difficult. And especially when you get into comorbidity, when your baby has autism and this conditioning, other family members have this and other people have that. It doesn't seem that way, but it totally, totally is. Also, so there are some different guides and some different things you can do within your state. So within Alabama, we have the preschool curriculum or preschool standards. That is, regardless of whatever curriculum you use, they should align to these standards. And since I write IEPs every single year, I know many of these standards like the back of my hand. And it just states that by the end of their preschool kind of years, because you can, depending on the birthday cutoff, in Alabama is September 1st. Depending on the birthday cutoff, you can still be 5 and still in preschool. So if your child is still in that preschool area, they need to be able to do this and this and that. Within your own state, definitely log that, definitely take a look at it. Make sure that you're aware of what your child should be doing developmentally. Now, that's not a bashing tool. So if your child is not able to do something, so let's say you have a child who is nonverbal, who isn't really able to communicate his wants and needs. He's 5, and you guys are still working on pointing or using a picture exchange communication system. That's your baby. That's where they are. We're going to build from there. Don't use the guides to say, oh, this is something else my baby can't do. There are a lot of things a lot of us cannot do that are developmentally appropriate. It's the way individuals are. Let's support your baby. Let's work on that. I want you to use that just to know where about they should be. So you don't think they should be too further up, or if they're too below and nobody's recognizing it, you're able to present it with data or evidence to say, hey, based on the state standards, marshmallow should be here, but marshmallow is all the way down here. We need to implement some other strategies, okay? Another place to get that is from the, let me see if I can type it. I don't think I'm able to type comments. Interesting. But another way to do it is the NAEYC, N-A-E-Y-C. That's the National Association for the Education of Young Children. So with NAEYC and the CDC, they also have some developmental skills kind of charts and things just for you guys to look at. I've also realized parents believe and they trust anything that teachers and professionals say, which is great. I love that feeling. But I also know it's because I know a little bit of what I'm talking about. Please know from your perspective what you have a basic understanding of these things. I've seen some situations where I've been in meetings and I've told a parent something and we leave and then they come back and they ask a question like a month or two later. And it was like, you didn't understand what I was saying in that meeting, did you? But when I asked if you had any questions, you just said, no, I'm fine, because you didn't want to expose yourself. Please do. If you are in a meeting and you don't know what's being said about your child, please ask for clarification, ask for additional resources to support your understanding. Sometimes it's as simple as a link. They may have a pamphlet they can give you, but there are ways for you to understand it regardless of your educational level. There are ways for you to understand that. Next is the 5 minutes, 5 years rule. Some of you may have heard this, but if it won't matter in 5 years, do not spend more than 5 minutes on it. To me, this rule is like, oh, yeah, in a perfect society, I won't spend more than 5 minutes on it. But when I've stopped and considered things, if this won't matter, and you can tweak it to whatever you need to, if it won't matter in 5 years, why am I spending more than 5 minutes on it? Now, this isn't for anything that's a serious condition that can impact your life now, but can subside later. I mean, for instance, like you want him to have his cars like this, but he's having his cars like that. In 5 years, do you think, so let's say your child's 4, and when your child is 9, will that impact and matter to you? Now, this isn't general for everyone, but for you, will this matter? We all have different viewpoints. We all have different feelings about things. What I may care and consider, you may not. So one thing I'm really working on myself is, as a teacher, focus on what you can do and don't worry about the rest. If you have a kind, genuine heart and you know you make every effort to support your child and your students, you cannot control everything. If I could, the first thing I would do is build a time machine and go back and change a couple things. We don't have that technology right now. We can do everything but time travel. So there's no point in worrying excessively over the past. I see this a lot with preschool because it's so new to you guys. So sometimes in the school systems, we're the first ones that tell you that your baby may not be what you expected them to be. And especially when you're some parents, especially with early intervention, you may still be trying to grasp it all because literally 2 years ago, this baby was still in your tummy. But now there are some different things going on and you're having to experience things differently, especially if none of your friends are in this situation. So it's a lot. It's an emotional roller coaster. I've acknowledged that. So I want you guys to understand that you're not, at least from my perspective, and I can say this from my perspective and my supervisor and I say a good portion of the teachers I work with. We don't come in expecting you to do it all. We know you can't. We come in expecting your partnership with your child. That's it. Outside of the partnership, please allow the good ones to do what they need to do. And you're absolutely right, Karen. A lot of parents don't want to accept it because it's so different from what they wanted. And I have to stop and understand that when parents get frustrated with me and they say things like, why isn't he able to do this yet? Why aren't y'all making him do this? And it's because that's not what they expected for their child at all, especially if it's not their first child. So when parents, from what I've seen, this isn't data-based or anything, when they've had numerous children, and then like maybe the last child is one where they have special learning needs of any kind, not just autism. It's harder because let's say you've had 3 kids already, and this is number 4. You're already programmed for what to do. Now you feel like you have to start all over in addition to supporting them. So it's a lot. If nothing else, I just want to say that so that parents will know that you're not alone. Someone out there understands. I may not understand it fully, but if it supports and if it helps you any, someone understands that it's not just about feeding and educating your child. There are a lot of different components that go into this whole entire process. Okay. And lastly, before I get to the end, self-care is required for success. I have to be very cautious as how I phrase this because I know I'm speaking to a lot of different situations. So what I will say is you can't pour from an empty glass. So if you keep trying to pour from an empty glass, you will keep coming up empty. If I don't know how you can make it happen in your unique situation. I'm not sure if there is a village you can support. If there is, please utilize them. If you have individuals who are willing to help, have that assessment of yourself, do a risk assessment to see what can really go wrong if I utilize these individuals. And if that risk assessment says that you need to use their support, please do. I was listening to a documentary about about NASA and spaceships and the whole journey to space. And the more and more I heard it, the more and more I realized it's more than just Buzz Aldrich. That's who we really hear about. Neil Armstrong. There was an entire slew of people that made that happen. There were other individuals on the spaceships with them. There were people down in the control centers. There were people who had to, when they said this, it made sense to me. Someone had to build the facilities to launch the rockets from. They didn't exist. You cannot send your child to the moon by yourself. If that is the first time you've heard that or have experienced that reality, I apologize in advance if it's uncomfortable for you because it is a very unsettling topic. You cannot do this alone. Now, not to say that if you have no support system, it's going to fail. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is You in and of yourself aren't the only answer. You're only a piece of that puzzle. Find other individuals, even if it causes you to have to step outside of your comfort zone, because that's what growth is, outside of what you're used to. Even if you have to do that, to find someone else to support you with your child, as committed as you are to your child, I strongly feel like you can make that happen. Now, even if it's someone in this group, even if it's a listening ear, even if it's a suggestion, different tips and techniques you can get, this is your village too. So it doesn't have to be someone in person. Find someone else to support you and support your mission of educating and raising and loving on your child. A lot of times parents are the only ones who can do it. And I always feel like if you could just reach out to anyone. Sometimes parents like doing Facebook groups because no one really knows them. They don't know their story. They don't know their skeletons, so they're a little less judgmental. Reach out. If that's what you need to help get through another day with your child, is coming into these groups and every day and just seeing what other people are doing or connecting with that one friend you've made, do that. If that's your self-care, do it. But please do not put all this pressure on yourself and think you have to do it all by yourself. Please don't. Your baby needs you. And if you're not there to support them and to help them, who will be there to do it? You're the starting points, okay? Last but not least, have, make, stick, okay? So with have, make, and stick, that relates to a plan. Have a plan, make a plan, stick to the plan. I've seen parents who have a plan. They have made their plan, but they do not stick to their plan. It can be anything from getting them to stop sleeping in their beds at night. It could be getting them to trying to get that one toy away from them, that if you hear that song one more time in your head, you may go crazy. Make a plan and stick to it. If you do not stick to the plan, the planning doesn't matter. Think about it from that point. You can put hours and money and time and resources into ABA, into early intervention, into all these different things, private OT, private speech. If you do not stick to what is being required or asked of you, it's not going to work. That's just the reality of it. So what I like to do is use KISS. So in other settings, KISS is keep it simple, stupid. I don't too much care for that. For me, when it comes to plan, I like keep it short and sweet. What does your child need to happen that day? You have to have a game plan every morning. When you wake up, it's like we have lesson plans. When you wake up, all right, what does my child need? Today, what do we need to do? We need to do this, this, this. All right, let's get it done. You know what the plan is. You know your child well enough to know, okay, this happens, he's going to do this. If this happens, he's going to do that. Parents are much smarter than they give themselves credit for. Y'all can predict and use correlation on things. And I'm just like, whoa, blown away, okay? You know what your child is going to do, especially now that you've had more time with them at home. They're not in school. You know what they're going to do. You know what their triggers are. You know what's going to set them off. Let's get it going. Put that plan in action every single day. What do you want your child to do? Some parents, they have a child where they can wake up and go with the flow. That's my nephew. My nephew doesn't need a plan. As long as he has something to eat and he can draw and he can watch TV, he's fine. It's when those other things kind of get pushed on him that he's like, wait now, hold on. We're not doing all this today. Not happening. So if you know what your child needs, make it happen within the day. Plan it. It doesn't have to be written. Sometimes a mental plan is better than no plan. Just think about it. As soon as you open your eyes, all right, what do we need to do? Okay, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to do that. Not specifics of I have to go to the store. I need to buy this. No, simply, what do you need to do? We need to wake up, eat. I have errands to run. Then we can come back. We can play together. And he can go sit here. That's your plan for the day. Congratulations. You've done it. As the day progresses, you can get into those specifics. But just starting off, those simple things will work. Then do your plan long term. All right, so for this week, what do we need to do? All right, what do we have coming up for the month? What do we have coming up for, for medically fragile students, what do we have? When are all the doctor's appointments? How do I need to move between here and there? I just listen to, oh, that's a beautiful question. So if we know our child that well, why won't others listen to us when we say what's going to happen? And then they get mad at our kid when they don't listen to us, preparing them for disaster times. Because in what my supervisor had to tell me when I was starting off, fresh, what they call it, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed out of college, ready to jump on and save the world, she told me, you are the marinade. You are not the fire that cooks the steak. You are simply the marinade. If you keep trying to cook the steak and you find that the steak will not cook, it's because you're doing something you are not meant to do. So when we get in these certain situations around people, sometimes the individuals you are speaking to are unaware of their purpose in that team, so to speak. That was me. Parents would say, well, no, I think they would prefer doing this, that, and the third. And I was like, yeah, I understand. Okay. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I got this. Just had X amount of hours of practicum and supervision. And then I go and it's like exactly what the parent said. So what I had to realize is that even though the child is at school numerous times, for 7 to 8 hours a day, especially if it's daycares, the parent still knows their child. So what I do is I put them together. I put my educational background with my experience with their experience, and then push it together. And sometimes when I come to parents, one thing they tell me all the time is, why did he do that for you and not me? Why did he do that for you and not me? I don't know. As long as it's positive behavior and it's helping them to grow, we can figure out the rest later. But they'll say, well, he doesn't do this at home. So, well, you told me that he goes potty at home. He refuses to do it with me. Is it me? But sometimes it may be. A lot of teachers don't like to look at it this way. And parents, this is something you guys struggle with too. They're not going to do everything with that person. Again, as long as it's positive behavior that's pushing them towards growth, it is okay. I have a child who, when they see me, let me say it this way. I had a child, extreme behaviors. We were trying to support them as much as we could. There was talk of medication. They were placed on medication, 3, 4 years old, extreme behaviors. When they were with me, nothing, zero, no behavior whatsoever. Now, could I go out and proclaim that I have found the magical cure for autism because it's in me? No. What I had to realize is, what do you do with that child that other people may not be able to do? I have a 0 tolerance policy for a lot of things, starting with anything that's going to stress both of us out. Baby boy, if you need to stand here and twirl in a circle because that calms your nerves, let's get this work done first, and then you can twirl your little heart away. Other people may not want them doing any form of stimming. As long as the stimming is not setting them back or it's not posing a danger to them, you want to play with a piece of string? Match red and red. Good job. Here's your string. Go for it. Some things we also try to stop doing get kids to stop doing, getting them to change things and situations. There are things I'm doing right now at home that I would not do at work. Same things for y'all. There's some things you do at home that you don't do at the store. Certain things I do at my house, I don't do at my mom's house. It's situational for all of us. It's not just autism. That's not just a characteristic of the child's autism diagnosis. But those of us who are I call myself slightly neurotypical because I'm mostly typical until that ADHD kicks in. Some of us who are just completely neurotypical, there are things we don't do with other people. I talk to my best friend a certain way that I don't talk to my mom. It happens. That's when you step back and you keep it short and sweet and realize, is it personal or is it the child? You have to separate that personality from that diagnosis. If you don't do that, you will forever think everything is autism, and it is not. I have realized that as a teacher. I have babies who come in with autism diagnoses, and we quickly are able to separate. Okay, that may be the diagnosis. And y'all, I'm so sorry. I keep acting like I have my glasses on. I forgot I have on my contacts. That may be the diagnosis. Okay, that may be just them. That's just how Marshmallow is. Marshmallow just doesn't want that. That's not autism. That's not sensory seeking. That's just him. You have to do that with your babies. Okay, I've gone over my time by about 9 minutes. I was trying to keep myself on a plan. Before I go, does anyone have any questions for me? Thank you, Shania. Does anyone have any questions for me? I don't know how to link. So I created a free ebook for preschool parents to help guide them through e-learning. It's on my website. It's free. Literally, I have it where you just click it and it'll automatically download for you. You don't have to put in your name, email address, any of that. I don't see how I can put a comment over here. I saw it earlier, but I don't see it anymore. Okay, I think this is it. Let me see. I don't know if you guys saw this. If you can't see it, I'll add the link for you. Awesome. So I will send that to you, just so you guys can have the link. I also do preschool morning meeting live videos on my Facebook page, my second Facebook page. So the tutoring company is Vivify, VIVIFY, Educational Solutions. I have a Facebook page for that. Then I have another Facebook page, Miss MISS Shannon Smarties. That's where I do all my preschool stuff, my morning meetings. I was doing it every morning at 9, but since I'm a teacher and we're about to start back work next week, we're going to do it remotely, so we're closed for the rest of the year. But again, in special ed, it's IEP season. We had to reschedule all of those IEPs when school closed. So I'm about to be busy for these next weeks. So I'm trying to redo a link, or not a link, a schedule when I can get on live. But you guys are more than welcome to go to Miss Shannon Smarties. Look at the videos I've already done. Go to Vivify Educational Solutions. That page is there. I am offering group and one-on-one virtual tutoring sessions for students, just so we can try to get them back into the groove of something, help them to keep the skills that they already have. Oh, thank you. Y'all are so sweet. So if you guys are interested in doing securing any one-on-one sessions or group sessions for your child, and you'll know if it'll suit them or not, just reach out to me. You can do it either through Facebook, through the business pages. Thank you so much. Awesome. So you can do it through that page. You can do it through, if you go to the website, vivifyeducationalsolutions.com, you guys can go to the contact us page and just put your info in there. It sends it to me, and then I can follow up with you. Trying to see. Okay, so questions. Does anybody have any questions about anything preschool and autism related? I'm trying to go back through and read to kind of see. Okay. Well, if you guys think of any questions at a later date or a later time, feel free to reach out to me. I wish there was a way. I got to get brushed up on this Facebook Live. I can Zoom all day long. I love Zoom. I can Zoom in my sleep. But Facebook Lives and things like that, can you come to my house? Per the CDC rules, I cannot come to your house. However, I'm more than welcome to support you if I can. Yes, and that is the other page. Thank you so much. So you guys can click on that and get in touch with me. And if you want to email me, if that's better for you, the email address is shannon@vivifyeducationalsolutions.com. And then I'll give you the business number. I can't promise you that I'm going to answer it. I literally got like people coming to my house now. We're trying to get the house spruced up and stuff. It's a mess. But it's 205-831-5627. You can call and text, leave me a message. Thank you. That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, Zoom is amazing. And that's some things you have to do is recognize the skills your child has and build on them. So thank you guys for having me on the first day of Autism Awareness Month. I am absolutely so thrilled that I was able to share my resources and kind of my skill set and knowledge with you guys. I look forward to the other lives that will be done during this month and what everyone else has to share with us. And if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out. Thank you for that number. Zoom is like Skype. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Skype or FaceTime, but it's so cool. I can do tons of stuff. Like I was doing a session yesterday, and I was able to share my iPad screen into the Zoom, and the child and I were putting a puzzle together virtually through Zoom. It's amazing. Also with Zoom, they are able to control my screen. So with my reading students, if I want them to type some sentences, I can give them access to my screen type. Yep, just like Google Duo. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I look forward to connecting and networking with you all. And I hope y'all have a great day. Bye.